Tonight I wanted to suggest launching another sort of media campaign, but in this case I'm thinking of it in terms of a 7-year, $100 million campaign about the entire Earth. So it plays well off of some of the earlier comments that people have been making, you know. And so the entire planet, or the whole Earth, and that kind of a campaign would have to have a certain sort of understandable package of activities. We had 5 reasons to boycott Burger King. In this case, we're thinking of a 6-point plan, right? And this 6-point plan would be hopefully popularized year after year after year for 7 years, and with a sizable budget. Though we started our 3-year national media campaign with very little money, right? We need a bit of money to make this happen, but as you know, $100 million in a global campaign over 7 years is not a lot of money. Nonetheless, we think we could do a lot with that. So that money would be spent on 5 major continents, and then we'd have one sort of unit for the islands, the major islands of the world, and we would spend the money fairly evenly each year in all of those different reasons around this sort of package of 6 different things. Well, obviously in 4 minutes I can't give you too many details about that, but if you want a longer 5-page paper on it, give me your card and I'll send it to you with a lot more details. But the first point is really about promoting a true cost circular economy. And that's really about ecologizing the rules of the global economy, right? And systematically figuring out how do we internalize those pesky pollution externalities. But we also really need to invent some new institutions that, say, at a continental level, ratchet down economic activity around carrying capacity levels, as well as globally. I mean, that's what cap and trade attempts to do in that one category. So point number 1 is really about changing the design of the global economic system, but popularizing that through this campaign over 7 years. Second point is about 100% renewable energy, and I don't need to say anything else about that to this crowd tonight. We know the sensibility of that. The third point is about 100% ecological farming, shifting industrial agriculture globally to agroecology. We could better feed the world, and we could capture a lot of carbon and scrub the atmosphere from that as well. The fourth point is called nature needs half. There hasn't been to this day really a serious strategy to stop the 6th great extinction, one of those other existential threats that John just mentioned to us, right? And so nature needs half is really about setting aside in protected reserves half of the planet, half of the oceans and half of the terrestrial. Now that might sound outrageous, but it is not. There's 846 ecological zones and 14 biomes, and we've studied all of them. And we know, we have some sensibility on the pragmatics of that kind of a campaign. But the 5th point is biospheric literate society with low-impact lifestyles and smaller numbers. To speak to Mel's point and John's point, it's not unimportant to deal with the lower numbers, right? But biosphere literate, because if we don't have the billions of people, whatever numbers we end up with, currently with trends or post-collapse, we need to understand how the world works ecologically. And we've developed a 5-star certification system for that. And we need to see how our low-impact lifestyles fit in concert with all of us simultaneously, and we've done some work on that. The 6th category is one of my favorites. It's just simply the word other. Because no laundry list is going to speak to everybody's particular passion, and they will hammer you for what you're leaving out that they're passionate about, and fair enough. You know, as long as any other particular passions are in concert with the first 5 points, we need to have this kind of a plan malleable to around the world in different zones and different issues and adaptable, and we've thought about that. So we need a lot of positive energy in these negative times, and via this kind of a campaign, it strikes me that people will begin to understand that we must maintain what's required to sustain life on this planet, right? People get that if you help them with it. That we need to learn that we can feed the world through ecological farming, and yes, we can build vibrant, locally based, true cost circular economies, right, that are actually sophisticated economies in many respects. So this Whole Earth 6-point plan campaign looks at half of the planet used responsibly to provide dignified lives for all people, and half the planet set aside to just halt the extinction crisis and protect the planetary cycles. So you could picture this $100 million 7-year campaign as basically a sales pitch, which it is in many respects. But we've already applied for this money from the MacArthur Foundation. Many of you know about the $100 million challenge. Well, we don't expect to win it, but that's only one pot of money. That amount of money exists in other pots, and we should find it and do this. But this is a kind of an economic and an ecological offense, because you need to have an offense to save the planet. People are going to rally to combat Trump, and that's already been spoken to tonight. And they'll likely be successful at stopping most of the really negative things, right? We did very well at stopping most of the negative things under Presidents Bush and Cheney. So remember that this campaign is in addition to existing the important climate change work that's already happening, so if you're supporting Paris or shutting down coal plants or trying to eradicate, the subsidies from all fossil fuels, this is just in addition and synchronistic and synergistic with that. So we're selling this positive vision. We want to sell it in 6 regions of the world year after year after year. We want to work with local groups who embrace the preponderance of this thing. And we think we can ecologize the economy. We can have an economic model that is in sync with the laws of nature. And that's the better world vision that will build the movement to help us move this to the better world. Thank you.